Hey, what's good, you all? My name is Avery Taylor, and you are watching the Larger Than Logic podcast. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Let's vibe. Let's get into it. All right, look, so today I'm really excited. When it comes to this whole podcast and everything, I've been on a journey, right? I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to offer value, right? What's the best way to connect? What's the best way to give my community what they need? I'm a young husband and father. I know a lot, but there's a lot that I don't know. The same way, all of us, we're continuously learning as we're going and continually trying to get better and apply knowledge, what have you, right? But I'm a big talker. I'm a big concept person. I'm very analytical. And so a lot of times I'm finding like the things that I'm giving you all, right, is very analytical in nature. It's very, very, in depth. I'm trying to dissect things. But that's not how everybody likes to receive information. And that's definitely like not how everybody enjoys, viewing content. And so I've been like looking and trying to find different ways that I can offer this value. I've tried to, get better at my storytelling. I know it's a lot easier to, especially as an adult, right, to learn through story, especially when you can like see yourself in that story. But I wanted to try something different today. I noticed that living in my bubble, I go to work, I come home, I read the books that I read or listen to the audiobooks that I listen to. I talk to the people who I talk to. I go to church, and spend time with my church fam. And, I do my thing, but I live inside a vacuum sometimes to the point where as I began to see from the things that I've been intaking, it's like the things that I experience isn't, always the same things that you might experience or one of our other brothers might experience, right? And what's normal to me, the things that I face, the questions that I'm even answering, right? They're all pretty exclusive to things that I see around me, but we all walk different walks of life. And so what we're doing today is I found some questions on Reddit, man. I went on Reddit and I was like, man, like, what are the brothers dealing with, right? And then, of course, there's a few sisters in here too that, they, what's the word I'm looking for? They gave some questions, but I'm going to be trying to answer all of this or respond to all of this from just the guy's perspective or my perspective and what value I can give to it. I don't want this to be very talky at you. I want this to be a conversation. And I also just kind of want to give you a bigger or a more detailed view and just to how like I view things and even my experience. Cause at the end of the day, that's all I can really offer you. And you're gonna have to go into life. You're gonna have to go into these different experiences and these different trials and these different run-ins and build your own perception, your own point of view. But hopefully with the value that's added with what you learn, with what you see, or maybe something that I've already been through, you might be able to go about it in a little bit more of a tactful way, get a better result out of it without having to bump your head the ways that I bumped my head, right? But yeah, we got a lot of these suckers, and it's kind of just crazy. What I was reading, some of them, are I think those I won't even say lower level issues, right? But just more intricate things as it pertains to like marriage as a young man or just a man in general, like, from our perspective, how we view things, how we prioritize, how we might naturally go about things, right? And then some of this stuff was actually pretty wild, but I'm gonna just go in order, right? So this first one, right? I don't know if I should say people's names. I'm not gonna say names. I'm gonna make up names. I want to respect people's privacy, even though they didn't respect their privacy because they put this stuff online. But we gonna call bro right here uh J Rock, okay? So J Rock says, he says, am I overreacting or no? Actually, I'm tripping. I misread. So this is J Rock's wife, and she complained about J Rock. So let's see what J Rock's wife says about him. Uh am I overreacting and being unreasonable for being mad at my husband? Ooh, J Rock, what you do, boy? Okay, she says, my husband, for background, here we go. For background, we have an 8-year-old son. My husband went to go hang out with his friends just now and told me that he'll be back by 12:15 a.m. It's been 3 weeks since he went out, but I'm so frustrated because it's so unfair that he gets to constantly do this. And I have voiced my frustrations to him that she wrote that right. She wrote that weird. And I voiced my frustrations to him, but his counter arguments were, uh, he doesn't even do it that often, and I'm free to go out with my friends whenever I feel like it, and he would have no problem with that whatsoever, but I'm the one who decides not to do it. You know what I'm saying? I respect her. But then she says, "While those facts may be true, okay, at least you take some accountability. While those facts may be true, the other major fact here is that when we are both home, I am the main one taking care of our son. I'm the one mostly feeding him, bathing him, holding him, taking care of him, and he is not. So of course I'm annoyed that he's going out. When he comes home from work after a long day, he sits on the couch and plays chess the whole night. But when I have a long day at work, and I'm a pre-K teacher, so she's a pre-K teacher, I'm still expected to take care of my child, expected to bathe him, expected to be the one entertaining him and put him to sleep. My role as a mother does not change whether I had a long day or not. I'm so frustrated that I have to watch our son for the rest of the night, and I've been watching him since he came home, or since I came home rather, from work. And the part that frustrates me the most is that my husband did not work yesterday or today. He could have watched our son yesterday, but he didn't want to since our babysitter was there. So he was out and about all day doing random things, coffee runs, stopped by his law school until I came home in all caps so that I would be the one to take care of him. The only time that he took care of our son yesterday was at the restaurant when we went to dinner for like 3 hours. I also have to watch our son all day tomorrow because my husband works. He works as a caregiver every other Saturday till 7 p.m. And then on Sunday, he has a CPR class that he needs to attend for a few hours. If he took an equal role when I am there, then I wouldn't feel this way. My husband says our son wants me more because I'm his main caregiver. He also probably doesn't have a problem with me hanging out with my friends whenever I feel like it because I'm the one who takes care of the majority of the time, or takes care of our son the majority of the time anyway. So one night of him taking care of our child isn't going to be an issue. I need advice. Am I overreacting or being unreasonable? Okay, look, this is sensitive. This is sensitive. Now my first thought is this, me and my wife, we just had our first. Our first is 5 months right now. Um, I will 100% say that being a parent, I don't care how many kids you have. I only have one, so I can only speak from the vantage point of one. But like in my experience, like it's very, very, very important that you are present in your home as a father from day one. The birthing experience in and of itself is it's a lot, and there's so many uncontrollables, there's so many unpredictables, right? And so you being there, at least for me, it was of paramount importance that I be present, that I'm there for my wife, right? That I'm protecting her, making sure that she has the space, the time, and the peaceful environment to be able to just heal and rejuvenate after such a taxing and such a just exhilarating experience, right? But also understanding that like there's this little tiny human that you must not only keep alive but keep safe and keep in an environment that will allow them to like grow, right? That will allow them to thrive and allow them to be able to uh, just develop into the person that they're supposed to be developing into. And so it's responsibility. And as many men adopt this perception or adopt this mindset that, that's a woman's responsibility. I think personally that's very problematic. You as a man, you made this child, and then also who you are and what you do and don't do. The same way it is with you and your father, or lack thereof, if he wasn't in your life. The actions that I find that I do and that we do and that we don't do develops the perception of us that's in not only our wives' head, but our kids' head, right? And so the thing about it is when I hear something like this from her perspective, my heart goes out to her because, being a parent in general is a job in and of itself. But to work your job all day with kids and then to come home and have, not even to deal with, but just, taking care of your kid because you love your kid, but also the individual who helped you create that kid is almost, coming across disinterested in the kid. Aside from that just being frustrating from a workload standpoint, I think that can be disheartening from the standpoint of, you want your kid to have two parents that are interested and invested and love them rather than one. And so my heart definitely goes out to Shorty. But I would also, ask J Rock, like, okay, bro, are you not taking a are you not taking a special interest or, kind of being distant because you're scared of something? Like, does the idea of being fully or heavily invested in your child's life like make you feel uncomfortable? You know, because I know some people, depending on what their relationship was with their father or their confidence or insecurity as it pertains to being a new parent can cause them to, act in some erratic ways, do some things that may be considered inappropriate or weird or just off. And so I would really want to dive into that with J Rock, like, hey man, like, where's your head at on this? Um, he said or she says that he said that, oh, our kid just prefers you more because you're the main caregiver. That might be true, some kids they are very preferential. I've seen it, but I will say a lot of times kids aren't preferential just because there's a preference. They're preferential because the way that one person takes care of them is a little bit more considerate or calming or soothing versus the way the other parent does, right? It's like one parent just holds them and holds them the way that they want to hold them, like in terms like the parent wants to hold them. The other parent like holds them in a way trying to ensure that they're comfortable, that their neck isn't in a weird way, that their arm isn't twisted in a weird way, that they're like securely held and safe, right? One parent might like just sit there and blow bubbles at them, whereas the other one like makes faces or like it's like, you know, and then or another parent might just ignore them altogether, right? Like in J Rock's case, it might be just ignoring. But it's like your kids or what I'm finding with my child at least, it's just that these preferences and things they don't just come up just out of nowhere. It's like it's kind of like how you nurture. And so my thing when J Rock will make that comment like, oh, our kid just likes you better because you're the main caregiver. It really just makes me question. It's like, are you trying to use that as an excuse to like evade responsibility? Or even evade your feelings about, what it means or what it looks like to be a new father. No matter which way you spin it, I would definitely say like, this isn't the time to be, thinking of self. This isn't the time to be trying to, be cute. Like this is the time where it's like you need to be learning as much as you can. And even if you can't learn a ridiculous amount, like pay attention to that kid and learn that kid, bro. Because the thing about it is you're going to kick yourself one day when you realize how much you missed. When you realize how much you missed and you realize how much more effective you could have been in helping them grow up to be a secure, just thriving adult because you didn't take an interest. And so, yeah, I definitely think J Rock, hey, look, man, like even if sometimes stories can get skewed. Maybe you do more than she put. I know sometimes like people can say things where they can tell stories from their point of view, and they don't really give much credit. She did validate, your 2 points that she could go out if she wanted to, and that she just don't take advantage of it. And just all that whole nine or whatever, bro. But I would say like, nothing should come before your family, bro. Like, you chose to marry her. You chose to propose and say I do. You chose to, shoot the club. You know what I'm saying? You chose to shoot the club. You know what I'm saying? And you chose to have a kid. And so Like, it's just kind of bad character, bro. I would say, and this is just being real, it's kind of bad character to make these decisions to invite somebody in a new life into the situation and then not carry your weight. So, yeah, bro. I would work on that, but not to say that you're not going through your own things, bro, but if you're going through your own things and don't talk about them and you don't get the help that you need, but you act in a way or don't act in a way that's detrimental to your family, that's completely your fault, bro. Like, you got to take some accountability for what's really going on. But I digress, man. Let's get into another question. This next one, this is another wife. This is another wife. All right, so let's see what Shorty says. This one's short. She says, "Is it wrong for me to tell my husband not to talk too much to someone I don't like?" And then she says, "The couple I don't like was there at the gathering we attended last time. It was the woman who spoke first. I don't like this couple. So I advised my husband that the next time we encounter them, we shouldn't chat to them too much. My hubby doesn't seem to approve of my suggestion." And so she's wondering, is she wrong? Um, like I said, I'm going to be responding to this from the male point of view, or at least my point of view. Um, I would say this one thing that I have learned in my 7 years of relationship, coming up on 2 years of marriage, is that when it comes to moving around, right, you do want to walk in step with your partner and you do want to be a united front, right? You don't want to have this perception or make people think that you all aren't in agreement on how you all are moving as a unit, right? And so, case in point, if I know that my wife isn't the fondest of X, Y, and Z or X, Y, and Z, which isn't like a really common occurrence, but say there is a situation, I'm not going to go and be all buddy buddy with the people or persons that she is having, some tips with. Now, I'll say this, it's different when sometimes, like, say I formed a relationship with somebody beforehand, or it's somebody in family or things like that. That's when I think things can get a little bit more, complicated, and more conversations have to be had about boundaries. But if this is how Shorty is saying, and it's just like, oh, I don't like these people, and so I told him, oh, I don't want you to be talking to them, or we shouldn't talk to them that much, and he doesn't like it. I would wonder, okay, now, bro, did you know these people before? What was that relationship like? And then if you didn't know these people before, like, do you feel like she's tripping? Like, does your wife have a history of just having issues with people? All I can say is this from, like, a husband's perspective. If these people are, harmful, antagonistic, for some reason, just showing bad manner towards your family, towards your wife, XYZ, of course it would be wise of you, and honestly, I would say the right thing to do, not to be rude, not to be unloving, because we are men of God, right? But to be tactful with how you move about them, right? Making sure that there is strong boundary in place. Now, if, for instance, you do have a wife that just has a history of having issues with people, it's your job, of course, to attempt to guide her through that. And so the thing is this, if she makes that declaration and then you, for whatever reason, aren't vibing with that declaration, or you're like, oh, I don't think that's a good course of action, you should be willing to converse. You should be willing to explain that. And you should also be willing to stand on the hill of godly principle if need be. But I think that it is for her to get on the internet, which this not your fault, because every woman, just like every man, has their autonomy, gonna do what they want to do at the end of the day. But for her to get on Reddit, for her to get on the internet and then ask this question, leads me to believe that you might not have taken the time to explain why you think what you think concerning the situation. And that's one thing that I think, is very, very also important when it comes to relationship and being like, a good husband to your wife, being a good leader to your wife, is that it's one thing to just make a decision. It's one thing to disagree. It's one thing to have a difference of opinion. But, even when it comes to the concept of how we're supposed to wash our wives in the word, when you're just, having opinions, having thoughts, or even telling her, like, hey, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. But you don't take the time to provide the reasoning. You don't take the time to provide the train of thought. You don't take the time to actually walk through the situation with her. It creates disconnects, and I think it leaves room for there to be a situation like what Shorty talking about right now, where she's not the fondest of these people, and either you don't care, you like them, or you just don't see it that way and aren't willing to, concede, or even offer maybe something different or better that might be more healthy and more beneficial and more Christ-centered, right? But regardless of which place you stand in, what this looks like to me is a communication gap, and that is something that I would address, because you don't want this situation to turn into a mountain or a hill that begins to get climbed, where she begins to feel like you don't have her back, or that she's not safe with you. Because when it comes to providing security to our wives, it's not just how do I want to say this, it's not just financial security, it's not just physical security, but it's emotional and mental security. She wants to know that regardless of the situation, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you think, that you have her in mind, her best interest, and also just her well being in a full spectrum way. And so I would definitely sit down with her and have that conversation. I understand you don't like these people for this reason. Um, if I was in your shoes, I understand that it's completely valid. How I'm viewing it is this. I think that, they may lack in the character department in these ways, but at the same time, I've been there. I don't think it's kind, or I don't think it's becoming that we begin to change how we do things and alter our character because of what they do, right? Or I don't think that it's, just that we attempt to avoid people. We're not those type of people. We don't see them every day. It's not that important to die on this hill of making them feel the weight of whatever happened. I don't know what the conversation would be, but I'm saying that, if I was in those shoes, and you could ask my wife, I'm a big conversationalist. Like, we talk because honestly, I say one of the biggest things when it comes to being a good leader and then also being a good teammate with your wife is that there's understanding in both directions. If there's not understanding in both directions, there's a lot of room for things to start getting off track. And so, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say she's wrong. I'm not gonna say he's wrong, but y'all need to talk. Hey, bro, lead that convo. But yeah, let's see what else we got in this thing. Let's see what else we got in this. I want to talk about something that's like, or I want to see a question that's like really like just in depth. Um, this looks like it might be a good one. My guy says, "Is your love for your spouse truly unconditional?" Okay, okay. He says, "Hi all, new to this subreddit. What's good, my boy? This is something my wife and I seem to disagree on. While I chose to love her through it all and tried to always see the good in her, last night she told me her opinion of me changes depending on any given circumstance." Ooh. Her statement makes sense to me to some degree, but I can't help but feel hurt by it. It is unreasonable to think my wife should love me no matter what, the same way I do for her. Don't get me wrong, there are times I'm frustrated with her, times I'm upset, but the difference is that even when she lets me down, I still know she's a good wife and has my best intentions in mind. But when I let her down, she thinks I'm a bad husband and I'm trying to hurt or neglect her intentionally. Guess it got me wondering if unconditional love is really real and if I've been fooled into delusion by fairy tales and fantasies. Ooh. Now that's very, very packed, my man. That's a very, very packed question. And the reason why that's such a packed question is because there's a layer that has to do with you and your emotional security. There's a layer that has to do with her and her emotional security. And then also how each of you is internalizing the contents of the relationship. You know, when it comes to the concept of unconditional love in and of itself, I think sometimes we get off base, and I've even been there, where we equate it to an emotion, and we hear it all the time. Love is not an emotion, it's actually a verb, right? And so to think of, is it possible to love unconditionally? That's more of a choice, right? It's like, am I going to continue to do right by this person? Am I going to continue to consider this person intentionally, even when I don't feel like it, even if I am frustrated, even if I'm not feeling considered, even if I do see character that I wouldn't agree with, right? All of those things, should never come in between you and or her and being able to still, take care of the other, right? And so that's the first thing. But on the second hand, I'll say this, I've been in that position too, and it's so hard to be in sometimes when you feel as though, you know, the level or the depth with which you care or the length to which you're willing to go, she's not willing to meet you there. What I like to comfort you with is this. Well, I feel like it may comfort you, and it's also going to be maybe difficult to swallow. But what I'd like you to understand is that her feeling that way, as much as it may feel like it has everything to do with you, it has nothing to do with you. And I know that's your wife, bro. And I I I feel for you because I understand the tug of war and the pull. But the thing about it is, as much as that is your wife, before she met you, before you all said I do, she had a whole wealth of experience. She had a whole wealth of ups and downs. She had parents or parent that shaped her worldview. She learned, what's the word I'm looking for? She learned ways to deal with her trauma. She learned ways to deal with her uncomfortability. She learned ways to deal with the ebbs and flows of life before she even met you. And so when a person, and it sounds like she's more perceptive than judgmental, because a lot of times the judgmental personality type of mindset, they have a view of you, and that view stays regardless of kind of what happens. So they either kind of view you as bad or view you as good, and it's difficult for that to, sway. She seems more perceptive in that it's like she's taking you with, each situation ebb and flow. But the thing about it is that has nothing to do with you. Of course, your actions affect her directly because you all are married. But I want you to take comfort in that you could be the most consistent, the most awesome guy in the world, and there would still be things that you would do that would make her question you, because she's questioning you not because necessarily you, but how she perceives and internalizes the things that you do and say. Now, the reason why that may be hard to swallow, but you need to swallow it, is because in order for you to lead properly, in order for you to be an effective husband, especially being a husband and a man that is sold out and actually like living through Christ, you cannot be prisoner to how she feels about you that day, that moment, that situation. And I hate to put it that way, but I must put it that way because there are so many men who are married, and then there's even so many men who are still trying to find, who they're going to be with. And I've been in that situation where your goal in life and your goal in relationship isn't progression. It's not to bear fruit. It's not to build things. It's not to become a more efficient, more effective, better version of yourself. But like we find ourselves in these situations where we are literally just trying to make her happy. So we spend our sun up to sundown just trying to cultivate an emotion within a person rather than realizing that as adults, even we're responsible for our own emotions. We're not supposed to be making each other happy. We're supposed to each be happy individually and bring that together. And if I'm a believer and then she's a believer, our joy is already in Christ, right? So it's not my job to try to fix every single last thing. There's some things that, she's gonna have to be able to fix herself or be able to work on or sit in, and vice versa. Now, you should always support, right? When she's going through things, that doesn't mean get cold. When she's going through these seasons, when she's questioning you, that doesn't mean be distant or withhold your love and affection. But what you got to understand is this, my guy: unconditional love isn't a feeling, it's a choice. If she's staying in there and she's consistently showing up and she's consistently attempting to work with you and work through these issues, I would say that she loves you. But what I would say is that her per well, I don't even just say her perception, but how she's internalizing the responsibility of relationship, and then the responsibility or even just the cultivation of you all's union, it seems like isn't from a purpose driven standpoint, but more so an emotion driven standpoint. And that's a conversation that I think you all need to have, because if she doesn't realize that you all's union is supposed to be built off of God given purpose and intention, right? Progression, becoming more refined and pruned version of yourselves in the way that, of course, God would say, hey, that's my child, right? Becoming more kind, becoming more loving, becoming more selfless, becoming more self controlled, becoming more disciplined, These are the things that you all should be working towards and helping each other with, right? And so if she doesn't realize that you all are in a partnership that's meant to be, helping you become more righteous and helping her become more righteous, right? You're going to consistently find yourself in this situation because she's chasing an emotional high rather than pursuing the end result. And if you don't understand that that's what's going on, then you're going to find yourself in the same rat race because she's chasing something that's fleeting, which is an emotion, and you're chasing something that is unattainable, which is making her happy 100% of the time. This is never what relationship was supposed to be built on. This is never what relationship was meant to achieve, right? And so, what I would say, if I'm answering your question bluntly, is unconditional love a thing? Yes, but it is a choice. And are you wrong for feeling hurt by what your wife has said? No, you know what I'm saying? We're people, right? Like nobody ever wants to feel like somebody would give up on them or is judging them or doesn't like them. But what we have to understand as men and as leaders is that it's not a fairy tale. You know what I'm saying? It's not a storybook ending. Like, relationship is hard, relationship is ugly, and then when you're the leader, like whether the ship sinks or rises, I mean, I won't say it's completely on you because of course, like, it is a team, right? And so, like, if in a basketball game or football game, the quarterback could be great if the team not playing, the team not playing, and that goes into the conversation of the teammate that you choose, right? But in a situation where you do have a teammate that's putting their feet in the game and they are working at it and they are, doing their best, and they're open to being coached and they're open to having conversations and they're open to feedback and different things, like, yo, if that ship sinks, it's because I would say you're not taking your responsibility up and really walking with it, you know what I'm saying? And you might be too much in your emotions to be able to see and lead clearly. Now, if you have a teammate or you chose a partner that isn't looking for that and they're solely in it for the emotional highs, the soothing, or how you all got into a relationship is that, for lack of better words, like you was up her butt, like you was, tying her shoelaces metaphorically, putting your jacket on the ground for her to walk on. Like, the movie stuff that you was just talking about, like, and you got her by making her think that you were gonna be like her emotional security blanket, you know, then I'm not gonna lie, it's like you sold her low key a dream, and now you kind of getting mad or in your feelings a little bit that she bought the dream. Even, you know what I'm saying, we understand that dream's not sustainable, but that's how you got her, you know what I'm saying? So if that's how you got her, that's how she expects to be kept. And if you're not feeling that, it's like, hey, that's why I always tell my guys, like, yo, what you lead with is what you breed with. You know what I'm saying? What you lead with is what you got to keep her with. You know what I'm saying? And if you decide to switch up, don't be mad if she switch up, or don't be surprised. Um, but look, when it comes to that conversation, you're not wrong. But that's sorry, that's some internal work that I think you got to do, my guy, and realize that, you know, she's a person, she has her own experience, she has her own emotions, and you can't be responsible for that, but also you can't let you can't let those things hinder you from being able to still be the husband and the man and the leader that you're supposed to be. Because from what I'm getting, it sounds like that is getting into your head, which, you know what I'm saying, if I was in your same situation, I can't say it wouldn't bother me in some way, form, or fashion. What I'm saying is that you have to pivot, because if the whole purpose that you're placing on you for the relationship is to salvage and save emotion or emotional love, it's gonna go downhill, bro. There's no way to say it another way. It's gonna go downhill. But yeah, I think that's a good stopping point for today. I think this was good. I think I want to do this again. I think I want to refine this. And you all can let me know, you know what I'm saying? Hit me up on Instagram. You can hit me up in the YouTube comments. But yeah, let me know if you was vibing with this. If you're vibing with this, we can run it back another time. But once again, my name is Avery Taylor. You're watching the Larger Than Logic podcast. You're listening to the Larger Than Logic podcast. And I'm so glad that you allowed me to be a part of your journey.